We early.
Early.
Howdy ho, everybody.
What up?
So somebody had a very early day.
Yep.
And so I figured we'd start a little early so somebody could get to bed if he needed to.
I'm going to lay over there and watch TikTok.
That's true, too, probably.
So that's what I was doing when you said, let's go early.
Let's welcome in the chat. It shouldn't take too long, maybe. Stacy Rogers, Nicole Happy's Haunt, hello. Kenneth H, good evening. Spaceship Ears, hello. Mari Memphis, welcome in. And there she is, the lovely, the beautiful, the ever so talented, the sweet, the personable, the ever so affectionate. The Daisy Duck to my Donald Duck, the Rapunzel to my Flynn, I gotta think of what the new one was. The Rogue to my Gambit, the Jean Grey to my Scott Summers, Snickerdoodle. Hello, Angela Mitchell.
The road to your house.
Anyway, Jennifer Crusoe, welcome in. Spaceship Ears, hello. Zippity Doo Doug, welcome. Howdy. Let's see. We got Spaceship, we got Doug. Genie52573, hello. Good to see you. Theo Sam Eagle, welcome in. And I'm scrolling down. There's Mike 88NYC. What's up? Good to see you. And I think that might be it. Casey's Corner of the World. What's up, Casey? Hey.
Looks like somebody punched me right here, but
It
There's
does.
nothing up there.
You got a boo-boo?
There's a mirror right here.
Oh.
But it looks like it. It still looks like it.
The single rider to my attraction.
Oh, don't say that.
That's she has lifetime lightning lane.
No, just go.
Mark Leggett Cap, welcome in. Good to see
What's
you.
up, Mark?
We got book club tonight.
We do.
We're actually going to read book club tonight.
We're back.
Yeah. We're starting out with the chapter titled "You're So Vain."
You're so vain.
Bet you thought this book was about you, did?
Yep.
And after book club, Steve, if we have time, if you don't mind, I've got 3 of these things I still haven't opened yet.
Do it.
So
Just do it.
So, if you missed our catch up on the book, we did that last Tuesday night.
We're just going for it.
We're just going to go for it tonight.
Just going for it.
Here we go. Without further ado, You're So Vain. How long have we been walking? There was still a little soggy from tramping through the mud and water at the bottom of the ravine. Luckily, the stream wasn't as deep as it had looked from above, but it had still been cold and generally unpleasant. Philip's boots sloshed a bit as he stepped. Climbing back out of it took more time than going down, but she couldn't have said how much. A while, I don't know. A couple of hours, Philip said. It's hard to see under the trees. I can't make a sundial here. It seems a little darker. Maybe the sun is set or close to setting. So this is real twilight, she thought, not the graying of everything that evening at the Thorn Castle brought. Shadows were blending with solid shapes, and everything seemed to be more blue and dark purple. She held out her hand in front of her. Somehow it seemed more real, more detailed than it did in sunlight. But as she looked off to the sides of the path, directly into the heart of the forest, it was already as dark as night, impenetrably dark, except she blinked her eyes, thinking she was hallucinating. No, it wasn't her imagination. There were tiny blue and orange wisps of light dancing just beyond the edge of where she could make things out clearly. Fireflies? Will-o'-the-wisps? Sorcery? And then one of the wisps bounced its way toward her. She watched with wide eye as it whisked its way and that way and finally wound up bobbing in front of her face. Philip continued on unheeding, muttering about finding food and whether or not dreamers needed to eat. Inside the ball of light was, as she expected, a tiny, perfectly formed girl. Not like the previous ones, younger, with an almost childlike body. Her eyes were wide in surprise as she peered at Aurora Rose. "You're a fairy," the princess stated, more for herself than anything else. "You're a princess," the tiny fairy squealed in amazement. "A beautiful fairy tale princess, in the flesh." The ball shrank down to the size of a pinhead, then suddenly expanded and with a pop disappeared. The princess blinked. The fairy was now hovering in front of her, just off of her toes, mostly human-sized. She had what seemed like endless waves of chestnut brown hair, a rather shockingly short tunic, and a pointy little nose. "And how pretty you are," the fairy said, dipping around the girl, half on her toes, half in the air. The princess spun, trying to follow. "You are from the real world?" Aurora Rose asked desperately. "Did the other send you? Are you from the cottage?" The fairy didn't answer, too busy picking at the girl's clothes and hair and any other bits that stuck out. "Hey," Philip said politely. "Who's your friend, Rose?" She shrugged helplessly, but she couldn't help smiling at the pretty, delightful, gold sparkly trailing creature. Please, she said, trying not to laugh at the thing's antics. Were you sent from Flora or Fauna or Merryweather? Oh no, the fairy was now playing with the ends of the prince's golden hair, touching it with awe. Those are important, serious godmothers, tangled up in human importance. We are good nymphs, fairies of the forest. Okay, here we go. Fiola lavua malalalali. Oh,
The last one was close.
I tried.
You did good.
The nonsense names quickly degenerated into bird trills and frog calls. More wisps came quickly bobbing through the trees. The prince and princess watched, astounded, as more and more fairies changed into life-sized forms and landed around them. They were all tiny, skinny, large-eyed, and were very little. Not that there was much to cover. Oh, look at her hair, your hair. It's like spun gold, one of the fairies said, but so dirty. Oh, your hands, so delicate, another said. The fairy's fingers were delicate too, but delicate, tampering, tapping, tappering at pointy nothings at all. Your skin is flawless, the third said, hovering in the air and examining her cheeks a little too closely. Are you a prince? The fourth asked, turning to Philip and looking up into his face with reverence. Why, yes, I am. Oh, I was a princess, Aurora Rose asked. So many fairies flew around her that she was practically cocooned in golden trails. The little sparkles were warm when they landed on her, like harmless crackles from a fire. She felt both crowded and swept up by the little army of magical girls around her. You look like one, silly, one of the fairies laughed. You're so handsome, a fairy mooned at Philip, her hands clasped. Well, he said, blushing. Look at your gown, the fairy wailed. Your beautiful golden gown tarnished. Those rags are not fitting raiment for a royal princess. And your shoes, where are your shoes? Come with us, the first one said. We will brush your hair and magic you new clothes and fix your nails, she added, with a distasteful look at the ragged, dirty, torn ones of the princess. Aurora's had sudden urge to hide them behind her back. Nope, not leaving the path, not again, the prince said firmly. We can do it here then. We don't really have the time. We don't really have the time. It will stay your travels but a moment, the fairy pleaded. Then you will be on your way, refreshed and renewed, and properly dressed for the adventures ahead. You look like you could use your shoulders rubbed, another fairy said innocently, turning her big eyes to Philip. Well, now that you mention it, he said. A prince and a princess, handsome and beautiful, the first fairy squealed, clapping her hands. We are so lucky. Soon there were dozens of fairies flying around, lighting the area with their golden dust and creating strangely warm room-like space under the trees. One made pine needles fly together and dance into a low couch. Another conjured a mirror out of dewdrops. A third pulled tree branches together and coaxed them into forming a screen. No, one fairy teasingly chastised Philip, pulling him away from the princess to the other side of the screen. Aurora found herself surrounded by hovering, fitting bodies that changed shape and dipped and flew up and down so much that she couldn't watch anymore. Their hands were gentle and carefully tugged at the ratty gown, flying it over her head away without any issue. The princess wasn't cold as she had expected to be. The golden sparkles kept her warm. Here, she was led to the pine needle couch where the fairy with a basket waited. Tap your head back, the fairy ordered. She did as she was commanded. A warm cascade of water trickled over her head, getting to all the scratchy places. It felt like heaven. Her hands were being lightly scrubbed with what felt like little pine cones. Your prince has no idea how lucky he is, the fairy, buffing her nails, said, leaning in close to whisper. He's not my prince, she protested half-heartedly. It was nice being so taken care of, almost like being back in the castle, but better. A perfect way to start the adventure. Someone was very carefully combing the pitch and tangles out of her hair. It really is like spun gold, the fairy said with awe. Wait, that sounded familiar. But before the princess could place it, another one was prating on. We shall give you a dress of green as the pines that shelter you and shoes to match. Several fairies were working magic into a sapling, causing cloth and fabric to appear and drape around the tree like it was a mannequin. Aurora Rose watched this and felt another pang of uneasy deja vu. Why do you care about clothes? Why do woods fairies care about human clothes? Silly, we don't, but humans wear clothes. And you're so beautiful. You need to wear clothes, beautiful clothes too. But we're in the woods, in a dream. I could be naked, like these dreams in which you realize you're naked. Shh, a fairy said, smoothing Parissa's hair back from her face. Your beauty comes with a trace of fairy magic, a fairy gift, if I'm not mistaken. You will probably be the most beautiful girl in the world, lucky girl. The princess said, thinking about this. Luck didn't seem to be a major contributing factor in her life, in either world. As for beauty, well, she had indeed loved the way people had looked at her at the balls in the Thorn Castle. At the forest cottage, she had played at dressing up in the costumes her aunts had made for her. Only once was there a time in the real world when she had been dressed up properly and beautiful in front of a mirror. That was right before she gasped in pain as the memory hit her. The day she was going to tell her aunts about the boy she had met. She had come home having forgotten it was her birthday. Time was both important and irrelevant in the woods. Stars marked seasonal changes. The moon waxed and waned. The solstices were strictly observed, but normal days and weeks and months weren't. She burst into the cottage, and there, waiting for her, was the most beautiful dress she could have ever imagined. No ragged seams, no patches, no spider webs or leaves holding its bits together. It was fitted and radiant and like something out of a dream. It was also hard to tell if it was blue or pink, which was sort of strange because she wasn't colorblind. She wondered where it had come from. None of the few villagers or woodsmen they had interacted with had anything like this dress or even the materials with which to make it. But that thought was quickly overwhelmed by joy. Joy at the pretty dress for her birthday. Joy at the idea of spending the rest of her life with the boy in the woods. Joy at the cake that was also somehow magically there and not imperfect, like something else out of a dream. And then overwhelming sadness when she found out what her 16th birthday actually meant and what the presents were for. The dress was there because she was a princess about to get married to a prince she had never met. The three aunts who had seemed to have her so thoroughly her whole life vanished from the scene entirely when she was locked in the castle bedroom. For her safety, she was left alone, with nothing but loss and bitterness and hopelessness. Aurora Rose gulped and took deep breaths, trying not to pass out from the memory, from the great wash of sadness. Seeing these fairies conjure a dress out of thin air, she now realized where her 16th birthday gown had come from, and the cake. Something like panic began to form in the pit of her stomach. Shh, shh, the fairy said, stroking her wrists. What's the matter? Everything's fine. Philip's laughter rang out beyond the screen, boyish and loud. There, the fairy said. The magic dress danced over to the princess. Despite her misgivings, she stood up to receive it. It would have been rude not to. The dress easily smoothed itself over her. Dark green velvet skirts, full and soft, twirled around down to her ankles. Golden buttons fastened themselves up the placket of the bodice and over the elegant tight sleeves. From her elbows, wisps of dark green mist flowed to the ground of tippets. A collar around her neck drifted out into a cape of the same material. Truly, you are the most beautiful princess in the world, a fairy breathed. Aurora Rose looked at herself in the mirror of dewdrops. She was indeed the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. Long neck, golden hair, wide violet eyes, narrow waist, lips perfectly pink and rosy. She turned just a little bit to see how her figure looked from a different angle. The green velvet flowed softly and majestically, making delicious little noises when its folds rippled. As talented as the castle seamstresses were, the princess had never worn anything as elegant or perfect as this. And yet, she thought about herself as the child in the dream world, hiding in neglected spaces of the castle, making friends with rats. She wore no dresses then, nothing fancy or pretty at all, until Maleficent came along and saved her. She thought about herself as the child in the woods, playful and dirty. Nothing fancy or pretty that wasn't pretend until her 16th birthday. Oh, that's nothing. Try this one, another fairy squealed. The princess found herself being gently prodded and pushed and combed and magicked, and her hair felt weird. When she spun around to face the mirror again, she was in a yellow dress, waves of sunshine spilling down from her bodice to her toes. Her shoulders were bare, which was a little strange, but they were pale and perfect and delicate. Swan-like, she could hear the minstrel saying. Her hair was loosely braided over one shoulder, a yellow ribbon tying it off. The fairies gasped, "You're so beautiful, even more beautiful. Can it be possible?" "Look at this," a fairy commanded. With a serious look and a wave of her wand, she transformed the princess again. This time, her hair was pulled up high on her head in an elegant chignon, a simple ribbon holding it back. A light blue dress puffed out around her softly like a cloud. The finest gloves she had ever worn covered her bare arms up to her shoulders. Funny little tinkling shoes felt chilly on her feet. She put her hands on her skirt and twisted this way and that. What a dress to dance in. She would look like a fairy herself, or a bride. So pretty, a fairy said, touching her hair again. My turn, another fairy said. Little hands grabbed at her. It was disconcerting and a little frantic, but gentle. Far gentler than Liana, who had also encouraged the princess to dress up, who always said how pretty she was, how beautiful, how like a royal princess, who made her stand in front of a looking glass and admire herself in her gowns. For the balls, which had been distraction to keep her and everyone else from paying attention to the situation they were in, from figuring out what was going on. That's it, we're going. Aurora Rose turned away from the magic mirror. Tiny fairies had flung in all directions as she spun around. She pushed the screen aside and grabbed Philip's hand, pulling him after her. He gaped and gawked at her outfit. Rose, you're beautiful. Yes, I know. Come on. She pushed her way past the fairies, who were gently trying to block her. Thanks for the dress and the hair washing and everything, but we're on a quest, and I think we've already wasted too much time here. Stay, we just want to look at you, one fairy wailed. So pretty, another said, lacing its hands into her long locks. Its fingers were sharp and pointed. Thank you, sorry, the princess said, yanking her head back and wincing. Little hands were pawing at her dress and her arms. Stay, you could be our princess. So pretty, pretty. Stay. Princess Philip was looking a little worried now. Should I pull out my sword? He whispered as they began to shove through the growing press of winged creatures. No, not yet. The fairies began to cry. Stay, we'll treat you like the princess you are. We'll worship you. You can be our beautiful doll. We'll dress you up and feed you ambrosia. Aurora Rose closed her eyes as she marched forward. The grabby little hands grew claws. She felt her hair and dress begin to rip. Oh, hey, cut it out, Philip said. He was less gentle than the princess, battling the fairies away with the back of his hand. She didn't want to look down to see what was happening. She wanted to continue walking down the path calmly and have it all disappear once she could no longer see them. We won't let you leave us. She turned. The fairies were changing. They were elongating, their thin, wispy bodies growing strangely fluid. They were also changing color. Slimy gray and oily green and sickly orange. Their eyes slid back into their skulls, yellowing in the process. Stay. They had claws and barbed tails now, sharp curved fangs and ugly horns. They lost their legs and grew extra sets of sprouted, pointy, torn wings. They flew and gibbed and flowed around the trees and the prince and the princess, swiping and grabbing. Sword now? Aurora Rose suggested. Already out, Philip retorted, trying not to sound nervous. He swung his bright-bladed sword through the crowd of demons. Sometimes it caught an actual piece of flesh, causing one to shriek and peel away from the others. But mostly it just went through them like they were made of smoke. I thought your sword was enchanted. The princess covered her face and her head, trying to move faster in her ridiculous skirts. In the real world it was, Philip shouted. He winced as a six-clawed, three-eyed thing successfully got to his face. 6 traces of blood flowed down his once perfect cheek. Aurora Rose cried out as something snake-like launched itself at her waist and wrapped around her body, squeezing tight. The demons converged on her, hissing and ripping and tearing. She kicked and screamed. In another world, there would have been much violence in her life, at least, not directed at her. In neither world had there. She had never had to defend herself. She had no idea what to do when she couldn't run away. Her feet and their stupid new shoes were roped together by something living and cold. Something else horrible, rough and tiny, was easing its way under her hands toward her eyes. Suddenly Philip was there. He had sheathed his useless sword and was now just grabbing the demons, throwing them off her. One landed on the back of his head and clung there, sinking its teeth deep into his skull. Philip gasped with pain but ignored it, concentrating on getting Aurora Rose free. When the demons were mostly off her, he roughly pulled her up. Run, he yelled, turning to fight the rest off. Not without you, she said without thinking. Oh, I'm running too, Philip said. Now. And the two ran into the woods, all the creatures of hell fast at their footsteps. Wow.
Bad wisps. Bad wisps.
Sparkly Pink, welcome in. Monorail Molly, how's this? My Katie NYC, welcome in. And Wendy B, hello.
Okay. Sing to me, O Muse. In the world of the Thorn Castle, she had scurried. In the real world of the Forest Cottage, she had run races with rabbits. Neither could compare to how fast she had run, twice on the same day now, throwing out her legs and leaning forward, desperately gulping air. Philip was close on her heels, still wrestling with the thing on his head. To the left, he panted. The path splits and there's a small holding up ahead, at least in the real world. She made the mistake of turning to look behind her. The things were slithering after them just above the ground, spilling down the path like something boiling and spoiled that had been overturned. The forest grew thinner. Though it was now well into twilight, with fewer trees blocking the last rays of sunset, the land was still bright golden. The path widened into something like a dirt road, and its unruly banks changed over the orchards and rows of vegetables. The creatures behind them thinned out too. It was like the smaller ones couldn't leave the shadows. Those that remained were looking more tentative now, curling around the bushes and scrub like smoke, skittering to the occasional protective lee of a rock from which they would dart out and try to nip the fleeing princess's heels. But the larger demons, the stronger ones, still tore after their quarry, hissing and snorting and untroubled by the dying sunlight. The closest one was the size of a horse, and it had horns above its evil yellow eyes, and it was gaining on them. "The gate," Philip cried, pointing at a rough stile that marked the entrance to the small holding. It was certainly not strong enough to keep the demons out and looked rather pathetic. On the fence next to it were tacked strange things Aurora Rose couldn't understand. Garlic, a rope of wolfsbane, a tattered cloth painted with runes. But the prince seemed to think the gate offered some form of safety, so she let him pick her up and hurl her over the side. He dove after her, landing in a roll. The giant demon chasing them stopped short of the gate. It looked ridiculous. This large, black, yellow-eyed, smoky-horned evil thing swaying hesitantly in front of the comparatively small rustic fence with the bits and tatters on it. That's a mouthful. It slowly lowered its head and began to fade. In moments, it was gone. Philip let out a string of curses. The demon clinging to his head was still there, undispelled. He reached up and pulled it off, hurling it to the ground. It howled, its face splitting almost in half. The teeth that it had sunk into the prince's flesh weren't long, but there were lots of them. The prince yanked his sword out of its sheath and drove it into the thing's head through its wide mouth, perhaps many more times than strictly necessary. It shrieked and hissed and squirmed and bled white blood-like pus, finally disappearing in a curl of oily smoke. Aurora Rose watched it all silently, trying to regain her breath. She wasn't sure why she was crying. Dear God, Philip swore, running a hand through his hair and looking at the thick smears of blood that covered it. I think I would have preferred a dragon. Those things were horrible. He wiped his sword on the ground to clean it. Why did that tiny gate stop them, she asked. The protective wards, didn't you see them hanging there? He said, pointing at the brightly colored bits and herbs. It's a pretty common thing in the more rural villages. Never believed they actually worked, though. Oh, she decided she would deal with the philosophical implications, dream talismans effectively keeping away dream demons another time. A lone woodsman returning from the forest, axe over one shoulder, looked over at the couple. Maybe it was the blood all over Philip or the princess's extremely out-of-place dress, but he started walking faster away from them. Let's go see if anyone has some warm water and bandages, and maybe dinner, Philip suggested. She put a hand to her head. But none of this was real. We're not really wounded or hungry, right? It's real enough while we're here, he said with a shrug. I don't know what happens to us in the real world if we're killed here, and I want to find out. So let's play by the rules until we figure out all the loopholes. She nodded. That made sense. They started toward the village. So another trap, much cleverer this time, Philip said. Yes, this time with a fancy surprise ending, Aurora Rose sighed. But you figured it out and managed to pull us out of it. I suppose I did, she said, thinking about it. It was all her doing, up to the part with the demons. Suppose you completely did. It was amazing. Well done. He was truly excited for her. His praise was real and enthusiastic. Little warm waves worked up her body from the tips of her toes to her cheeks. He, her prince, was genuinely impressed by something she did. It almost eliminated the remaining apprehensive-ness in her, but not quite. What's wrong? We won, Rose. Why are you still upset? She took a deep breath and tried to sort her feelings. When you told the story of what happened in the real world before you mentioned the fairies giving me gifts of beauty and grace or whatever, and I just sort of dismissed it. I thought it was a poetic license. So when the back there fairies, the demons, one of them said my beauty was a gift, a fairy gift, it suddenly sank in. It must have been literal. My beauty isn't even my own. It was given to me by somebody else. Oh, Rose, don't be silly, of course. The story said, the fairy said, but that's not the point. The point is that I realized, standing in front of the mirror, that wherever they came from, my looks were never actually that important to me in the real world. Other things were. That's when I figured out how weird the situation with those fairies or demons or whatever it was. It didn't even I didn't even start I didn't even start out caring about my looks in this world, the world of the Thorn Castle, not until I was actively encouraged. The fairies were acting exactly how Lee, my handmaiden, acted around me, with the dressing up and praising my golden hair. And she wound up being a spy for Maleficent. Philip frowned. How strange. It seems like twice now in your dream life, in your dream life, she has tried to distract you and trap you with dresses and, I don't know, your beauty and vanity, which you don't really have much of it. Vanity, I mean, you're plenty beautiful. But it seems like Maleficent doesn't have a very large range of scenarios for you. She just goes back to the same old thing. I think she might underestimate me. I think she has a picture in her head of who I am, silly, pretty princess. I don't think she actually knows who I am. I hope I do, Philip said with a grin, taking her hand and squeezing it. Do you? She asked with a wry smile. I'm not even sure I know myself. The breeze turned, bringing the clear, teasing trill of a fiddle to them, along with the smell of smoke and the sound of laughter. There couldn't have been a more inviting combination of sensations in the world. That must be the village up ahead, Philip said, pointing. The two picked up their pace and hurried to the center of the tiny village. It was really nothing more than a cozy collection of cottages with thatched roofs and smoke drifting from their stone chimneys. There was no bank or church or any more formal building than a smithy and a storehouse. Aurora Rose realized with a start that it might have been one of the places her aunts, the fairies, went to get supplies. She was never allowed to go on those trips. A huge red and orange bonfire crackled merrily in the commons. Two fiddlers and a jug player enthusiastically belted out high-spirited music. Children ran around in bare feet, mouths smeared with red and purple from the berries they were gobbling down. Adults clapped and danced. Everyone was dressed, well, if not in their best, then at least their nicer clothes. Big skirted dresses for twirling, broken straw hats freshened up with ribbon, even the occasional washed face. Humans weren't the only ones enjoying the fun either. Dogs and cats chased each other through the crowd. A gray donkey lifted its neck and brayed along with the music. Toddlers worked to keep a small flock of overexcited geese out from underfoot. A table with a snow white cloth. Ooh, there's a little name. A table with a snow white cloth was laid out with all sorts of pies and tarts, along with a pile of bread and pots of dark purple jam. A cauldron of something that smelled like a hot wine sat on the smaller fire nearby. A solicitous crone ladled out steaming portions into anyone's mug. Aurora Rose's eyes widened in delight at the scene. It's the Berry Moon Festival, Philip explained. If things work the same way here, they're celebrating the end of the summer. I'll bet that's hot raspberry mash over there. I know that festival. They have it every year, but my aunts will never let me go. She said wistfully. Wait. Philip sighed and pulled his hands out to catch her as she began to sway, hit by another stream of memories. This time it wasn't too bad or too long. A series of very similar scenes presented themselves one after another. Late summer, and despite their seclusion in the woods, the excitement of the festival reaching even the three aunts and Rose. She begged to go. If the breeze turned right, she could smell simmering raspberries on the wind. Never. It's not safe, said Flora. I'm sorry, dear, said Fauna. Maybe when you're older. How fun can it be anyway, Merryweather asked. All those clodhoppers dancing around and those silly songs and eating pies. You never let me do anything, Rose screamed, stomping out of the house at age 13, 14, 15. Aurora Rose came to still upright this time, head pounding, that buoyed by one clear thought. I get to go this time, she said, grinning and walking ahead eagerly. Rose, it's not real, Philip said, chasing after. It's probably another trap. It's probably danger. Don't even, she spun around and put her finger to his lips. It's my dream, and I'm finally going to enjoy it. But if the prince was expecting another trap from Maleficent, his suspicions were immediately allayed by what happened next. The music wound down awkwardly, the dancing stopped, and the crowd turned unfriendly stares on the couple. The princess put a hand to the back of her head in embarrassment. They did look pretty strange, an armed prince and a ragged princess covered in blood and dirt. Hi, she said with a timid wave. She tried to remember who she was and where she was from and how people usually looked at her when she walked into a room, at least in the Thorn Castle. Excuse us for interrupting. Where have you, is that a word? Where have you come? This is your.
Where have you come from?
That's it. Where have you come from? Just at sunset and all. An old man asked, not bothering to mask the suspicion in his voice. Oh, come off it, you crazy old coot, swore a woman not dramatically younger than he, rolling her eyes. That impudent gypsy Ozrey came in just a little before them, and ye didn't give him the third degree. This is just yins and y'alls, and we knew who Ozrey is, the old man sniffed. Never seen the likes of these two before. There were murmurs and nods of agreement from more than a few villagers. We escaped from the enchanted castle, Aurora Rose explained calmly. We were prisoners there and managed to escape the evil queen and her servants. We were chased by her demons all the way here, Philip added. I killed the last one who did this to me. He turned and showed the back of his head, torn and bloody. And at that, the crowd began to relax. I thought ye looked royal, a woman said, nodding her head knowingly. Schwai, we have the wards, piped up in an ancient lady who had few teeth and many warts and a long pointy chin. Keeps the witch and their servants out of the town. I don't. This is more suited for your speak, for which we are indebted to you utterly, Philip said with a graceful bow. And there are lots of people in there, another woman asked, looking worried. Trapped? Yes, we plan to get help to rescue them. There was no point in telling the whole story to these dream people who may have been asleep in the real world or not in the real world at all. You'll need an army, a middle-aged farmer with a quilted vest said, a long piece of grass stuck out of his mouth. Aye, a big army with siege machines and the like, said another thoughtfully. You'd better not have your army tromping through my rutabaga patch, the third farmer cried, pointing down to the ground with his finger like a judge. I'll not have your army marching through here and ruining my rutabagas. We're not. There's not. All right, we promise, Philip said, giving up. No armies on anyone's rutabaga patch. The farmer settled down relieved. Well, then come and refresh yourselves, you young heroes, the crone at the cauldron cackled. You're interrupting our party. You might as well join it. We would be delighted, the princess said with a sigh. The music started up again. Everyone began to clap, dance, or gossip, not bothering to disguise the curious stares they gave the newcomers. Someone handed them each a heavy-bottomed mug of hot raspberry wine. One sip of the sweet and syrupy drink went immediately to Aurora Rose's toes. Her foot began to tap to the music. She watched the children from the circle and began a surprisingly complicated routine. Come, a little girl said, running up to her and grabbing her hand. She looked at the princess with hope and awe. It was unlikely anyone as pretty or dressed up as she had been to their village ever. The princess, in turn, looked at Philip. It's another trap, he said. Probably. Doesn't feel like it, she said with a grin, and she let herself be dragged away by the little girl. Neither did the last two, Philip called after her. The crowd cheered and the adults joined together to make a larger ring around the children, dancing the opposite direction. It was the exact opposite of the balls that Maleficent threw. No fancy dresses, no preening, no dissembling, no posing. The children were dancing for the sake of the dance itself. Energy, happiness, and light flew around, and Aurora Rose found herself swept up by it until she was laughing along with the little ones whose hands she held. Philip, on the other hand, looked uneasy. He kept smiling and toasting villagers, but obviously didn't like the way that he was now separated from her by the ring of adult dancers. The music slowed down. The circles paused in their gyres. Philip moved forward and began to clap, relieved it was all over. And then the music started up again. The rings of dancers began their revolutions again. Wait now, Philip said, to no one in particular. No one heard, and the fiddlers played on. Like a coach gradually accelerating on a downhill stretch, their strings plucked and thumped slowly at first, and then began to build up speed. The dancers followed suit, no longer attempting intricate steps, but just circling round and round. Rose, Philip cried, but she was swept up in the dance, her hair a golden smear, her smile a flicker that was there and then gone. Soon he could barely see the inner circle at all. The musicians played faster, their bows snapped back and forth across their fiddles like they were trying to saw themselves in half. The dancers spun in circles so swift they became two blurry bangles of cloth and braid and feet and dust. The adults put their joined hands together in the air and rushed towards the center towards the children and rose. Philip put his hand on his sword. The music reached a fever point, the fiddlers pulling like their fingers would fall off. The notes sounded insane. Philip started to step forward, and then the music stopped. Just like that. Everyone on the sides clapped madly. Both rings of dancers swayed, separated, and collapsed, all exhausted. They stumbled back to rest or have a drink. The fiddlers shook their hands out and started again a slow folk melody to give everyone, including themselves, a chance to recover. Aurora Rose's cheeks were ruddy and her smile was wild. She laughed when she saw the slow changes on Philip's face. Suspicion, then confusion, then grudging delight. I told you it didn't feel like a trap. Neither did the last two, Philip repeated, rolling his eyes. He started to hand her drink back, but she took both it and his own mug and set them down on a barrel, then grabbed his hand and led him onto the dance floor. A reel was just beginning. A row of men and a row of women were curtsying and bowing to their partners across the way. The prince and the princess tacked themselves onto the ends. If she had any doubts about the son of a king being able to perform a country dance, her fears quickly evaporated. Philip gave her a not-too-courtly bow and immediately began the correct steps in perfect synchronicity with the boys and men around him. She picked up her skirts and danced up to him as all the ladies danced up to, but did not touch their partners. All they could do was look into each other's eyes, daring the other one to look away. Prince and princess's face were less than a blush apart as she switched her feet in a series of tiny moves. She felt the heat from the drink spread back up through her body and flush her lips and cheeks. And then she was spinning back into her own line again, dizzy and giddy. The lines moved and they switched partners and clapped. The lines moved and they switched partners and clapped above their heads. Soon Aurora Rose was face to face with a short bearded woodsman who had a cloth cap and surprisingly graceful feet. He was gentlemanly and had a serious expression, devoted to the dance, but gave her a wink when it was time to move on. The music broke for a moment when a small child ran straight down the middle, crying and looking for his mother. The princess immediately took him by his little hand, and walked him around till they found her. The mother, unconcerned, it was a small village with no real place to get lost, gave her thanks, but the boy kept staring back at the princess, awed at his royal rescue. Everyone laughed and the dance restarted, and Aurora Rose was back with Philip. When it was time for him to swing her around, he put his full hand on her waist, thumb curving around her back, and so he had her entirely. She could feel the heat from his palm through the rich cloth and found herself swaying so he was supporting more of her weight than he really needed to, as if she would fall in if he let go. When he put his other hand on her waist to lift her up for the ladies' jump, he whispered in her ear. She didn't understand what he said at first, too focused on his lips, just touching her ear, his warm breath on her cheek. Your dress. She looked down when her whirling brain finally translated it. She no longer wore the meringue-like light blue ridiculous thing. It was instead a strange mix of her outfit when she had lived in the forest and what she had escaped the thorn castle in. An old brownish skirt and black corset top, but with a golden shirt that flowered under the corset and over her hips like a tunic. The skirts were all ripped and in tatters. And her shoes were once again gone. She shrugged. It's my dream, isn't it? She said, whispering in his ear. Philip raised an eyebrow, thinking about this. And then the moment was over, and they were returning to their lines. After that dance ended and a circle dance began, which was a little disappointing. She wanted to be up close to Philip again. But a dance was a dance, and she was having fun. So she joined in that one anyway, and the one after that, and the one after that. Philip bowed out after a couple. His constitution for such diversion not as hearty as hers. He toasted her from the sidelines and was polite but not encouraging to the local girls who flirted madly despite his reticence. Finally, he was forced to retreat to a quieter area where the horses were tied up and the carts and wagons were parked for the evening. The princess eventually took a break, collapsing next to Philip on a pile of hay, leaning her hot and exhausted body next to him. Rose, Philip began. I know we need to go, she sighed. I know, we need to go, she sighed, slugging down the last of his wine. Well, I don't know. He cast a worried look at the sky. It was now fully dark and the stars were out. The bonfire blazed bright orange and red against the sky, smoke hazing the heavens. Maybe we should spend the night here. It seems safe. I worry about another distraction attack from... He stopped for what he was saying when a funny-looking man approached them. He had been hidden inside the prettiest of the covered wagons. Peeling paint decorated the sides in a landscape of mountains against a blue sky. Once brightly colored pennants still flapped bravely. The man was certainly not a local. His dress was just a trifle too fine and too untouched by the dirt a farmer or woodsman's life involved. His face was different too, with a pointier nose and light blue eyes. He wore a multicolored cap that he touched when he sat down across from them. A fine night for a village dance, he said. Aye, Philip said. It is indeed. You don't seem like you're from this village, though. You don't neither, the man retorted, but toasted with his mug, a slightly dented metal one. People say you're from the castle over there, the one where the witch keeps everyone prisoner. Yes, the princess said. We escaped. We're going to get help. And where are you from? Philip pressed. All over, my lad, all over. I'm Ozrey, the traveling merchant, the man said, getting up and giving a little bow. Peddler of delights and displayer of fantastic finds. People come from all over when they hear I'm in town to take a gander at my wondrous wares. Really, Philip said. He didn't quite say it in disbelief, but Aurora Rose gave him a small kick anyway. Oh, I can see you're a sophisticated gentleman, Ozrey said with a smile. You've a sword of steel and have probably all sorts of boy toys at home. But I've been to the east and beyond, lad. I've been to Alexandria and Shanghai and Persia. I've traded with those who have been to Relaya and Carcosa. Tell me, have you ever seen anything such as this? Like a magician, he pulled out of nowhere a delicate wire bird cage, tiny and bell-shaped. But on the golden perch inside wasn't a real bird at all. It was a metal one, shiny and faceted like a gem. It had bright emeralds for eyes and a beak carved out of onyx. Amazing, Philip said in wonder, putting his head close for a better look. Oh, that's nothing. Get a listen to this. Ozrey pressed a stud on the side of the cage, and suddenly the bird came alive. It cocked its head and flapped its wings. Then it opened its beak and let out a pretty little trill, just like a real bird. It's wonderful, the princess breathed. She can sing real songs, too, Ozrey said with a proud smile. Not like you and me. No, not the songs from around this great country, but songs nonetheless. Quite the companion on the long, dusty roads. He sighed, setting it down on the hay bale in front of him so the prince and princess could have continued to admire it. That was from one of my trips long ago to the east. Don't do that so much anymore. Mainly I come through here, these parts, a couple times a year on a regular rounds. Sell the good folks things they can't get here. Knives, pots, the usual housewares, pretty cloth from the city, and I pick up the things they can't get in the cities. Mushrooms, wild herbs, the usual. Thought I'd stay for the party, but I'll be on my way tomorrow. Really, Aurora Rose said excitedly, finally drawing her eyes away from the bird and looking meaningfully at Philip. Maybe we could travel with you for safety. You could hide us in your wagon. Ozrey looked away, down at his drink, and then over their heads towards the woods. Not that you wouldn't make pleasant enough company, but I'm afraid I've no desire to get the attention of that evil fairy back in there. Philip frowned. You know she will find out who helped you, the man protested. Her spies are everywhere. I'm a coward, yes, but I survived through more kingdomly squabbles and troubled times than many in my profession. We're not asking you to take us all the way through the woods, the prince said. Just part of the way, to the crossroads after the granite escarpment. We can part there. We can pay you, the princess added, somehow. Ozrey started getting twitchy. If I was to take you, I couldn't take payment. Now, could I? He said, thinking desperately. Not for helping the two of you out on your noble quest. It would have to just be a good deed, unless it gets me killed, in which it was a stupid deed. It's a good deed, the princess suggested. The man finally shook his head and stood up. Well, I'll leave it to the fates like I always do. That way I don't make the decision myself. I can give myself up to what the gods will. How's that? Philip demanded. Well, can you sing, pretty bird? The man asked, cocking his head at the princess. Yes, but so we'll have a singing contest, Ozrey declared. You against my own pretty bird here. You win, I'll take you wherever you want to go, wherever you want, as far as you want. I win, I'll take your man's pretty sword and hilt there. Philip put his hand protectively on his belt. We'll have no way to defend ourselves. If you think a sword will defend yourself from Maleficent, you've already lost, Ozrey observed wryly. Philip shuffled his legs in exasperation, but didn't contradict him. I'll wind her up once. Whoever sings longer without repeating a song wins. Is it a deal? Philip looked at Aurora Rose. The princess tried very hard not to roll her eyes, a habit she had picked up from the otherwise expressionless Liana. The contest was a cinch. Singing was her thing. Folk songs, religious songs, foreign songs, whatever the fairies taught her, whatever her music tutor or the minstrel did, even her own made-up songs to while away the hours in the woods or her concerts in the castle. In fact, this was very much like one of her performances, just with higher stakes. Absolutely, she said. I'll even have the little wonder go first, Ozrey said, inserting a silver key into the thing's neck and winding. Sort of gives you a head start. The bird tipped back and forth once or twice on its perch, almost like a real one, but its movements were jerky and sudden, and its eyes didn't move, nor did it cock its head suspiciously at its audience, the way a real one might have. The carved gem beak opened and began to sing. The music that emerged was beautiful and perfect and unworldly, like tiny bits of metal or glass tinkling on the stone floor in surprising order. The notes were a little strange to the princess's ears, but she absorbed the new sounds eagerly to try them herself later. It was a happy little tune, just the sort of thing you would imagine a pretty wind-up toy would play. And all too soon, it was over. Your turn, young miss, Ozrey said with a little bow. For now, the princess wouldn't show off. She would just concentrate on winning. Without thinking about it, she sang, Deuce, deuce, Dame Jolie. The last words from the minstrel before Maleficent's guards had hauled him away. In memory of him, she sang the whole thing through, which he didn't have the chance to do. She felt rather than saw Philip watching her, enchanted. When she finished, even Ozrey touched his cap again. That was amazing, miss, if you don't mind me saying. Rose, I've heard you sing before, but Philip was at a loss for words. Your voice is so sweet, like an angel or something perfect and pure. She blushed. All right, Bertie's turn, Ozrey said. It sang again, another happy, sprightly tune. The princess sang again, a comic but not too bawdy ballad to match its tone. The bird sang again. Its tunes grew more complicated. Sometimes it sang two notes at once to make a little chorus with itself. The princess wasn't concerned in the slightest. She had a repertoire of hundreds of ballads, canticles, and rounds to choose from. Slowly, its songs began to change, from the simple country airs to tunes that were sweeter and sadder. It held its notes and trilled in minor keys. When it sang, the princess listened enraptured. At the same time, she was impatient for it to end so she could begin her own response. It was almost like she didn't even care about the contest anymore. Finally, it sang a song so sad that even the wind-up bird's unnatural notes brought tears to all of the listeners' eyes. Aurora Rose gave it an equally sad, shaky rejoinder. The thing paused for a long moment, fluttering its wings nervously. It had used up its library of music. Somewhat regretful, the show was over. Philip turned to Ozrey. Well, seems like, and then it began to improvise. Tentatively at first, it began to sing a sad little tune, as if it was truly distraught over almost losing the contest. But then little areas built on themselves, climbing higher and higher in dizzying complexity. The music turned joyful again, as the wind-up toy sang its clockwork heart out. Without waiting for her turn, the princess joined in, eager to be part of such a beautiful thing. The duet was like nothing she had ever experienced. She thought she was following the bird, but then maybe sometimes the bird was following her. Could a toy do that, or was she imagining it? She sang notes she had never hit before, higher than she had ever dared. Song was her gift, and for the first time ever, she was fully enjoying it. Rose, Philip's voice came from far away, a little worried sounding. She almost laughed, almost missed a note. She would win the contest. The bird would wind down. But she hoped not yet. Her throat began to hurt a little. The bird trilled an arpeggio that soared up and up. She sang a descent that climbed beyond. She closed her eyes and held a single note for what seemed like forever. She opened them to look at the night sky. Each of her notes, each of the bird's notes, rose and became a star. A little bit of her soul, her voice, caught and rose and would now glitter in the heavens forever. Why hadn't she ever seen this before? She could sing the sky. She held one note for so long that little flecks of blood came out of her mouth. It was perfect, not disturbing. Her blood became tiny red stars, joining the notes and other stars. She was part of it all, her body and spirit and the music and the universe. Then a single irritatingly off and banal note ruined everything. The princess came to, forced to refocus her eyes closer to the earth. A tree branch resolved itself in black detail against the sky. Perched on it like a lump was a nightjar, an ugly, large-mouthed brown and black bird. It chucked and whistled its ugly call out into the void. Was it looking at her? Its voice was scratchy but nuanced, unlike the toy bird. It carried. Over the fields and even above the blurry din of the village danced and band instead of disappearing up into the sky or falling twinkling to the ground. The male bird was calling plaintively for a friend, for a mate. The princess forgot her song. Ozrey was looking at her intently. Otherwise, neither he nor Philip was moving, but the little mechanical bird kept singing and glittering and jerking back and forth in its cage. Its notes sounded silly, toy-like. Aurora Rose suddenly felt sick and pain, her throat burning. She blinked at the little wind-up bird. "That's it, then," Ozrey said, suddenly unfrozen. He spoke nervously. "You've stopped singing. You've lost the bet." Aurora Rose looked back at the nightjar. She raised up a graceful hand. There was no reason the carnivorous and mostly shy bird should leave its perch and a light on her finger. But it did. How did she know it was carnivorous? It burbled happily and did everything but rub its strange whiskered beak on her hand like a cat. She stroked the back of its head. "I'll have your sword," Ozrey continued. "There was no bet," Aurora croaked, her voice ruined. "Another trap. He tricking me, singing forever." Philip looked confused at first. His gaze moved from Ozrey to the bird, to the princess, and to her bird, and then back again. Then his face went white with rage. "I should kill you where you stand," he swore, starting to pull out his sword. Aurora Rose opened her hand, and the little brown and black bird flew away. Saved by a creature of the forest, they remembered her and found her even in her dreams. Whatever happened, if she wound up alive and back in the real world, she would never, ever forget them, no matter what path her life took. Ozrey wasn't reacting to either the prince's threats or the turn the situation had taken. His eyes were now strangely opaque, like Liana's. "How did you get past the protective ward demons?" Philip demanded. "Oh, everyone knows old Ozrey, the thing that obviously wasn't human," said with a leer. "Everyone helps open the gate and lets him get his wagon through. You might say my current role fits like a second skin. No one sees through it." The princess coughed the wounds in her throat itching and scratching. A small goblet of blood sprayed out onto the ground. "You do have a lovely voice, princess," Ozrey said with a nasty sneer. Philip made an inarticulate sound of rage before she could stop him. He drew his sword and drove the blade into Ozrey's heart. The thing that looked like a person squealed like a pig. He shuddered and vibrated. Shuddered and vibrated and shook in a way that no normal creature did when it died. Black, oily smoke poured out of his eyes and nose and the wound in his chest. But unlike the others, his skin began to collapse. Great swags of it bagged and pooled in dry puddles on the ground. The smoke dissipated with a hiss and a terrible smell. All that was left, was the thin shell of the original Ozrey, the human-shaped husk a demon had hollowed out and moved into like a mummer into a costume. The princess turned and closed her eyes. "It's not real," she mouthed silently to herself. But was there a real Ozrey in the real world? Was he dead now? Was there a real demon in the real world as well? Was it dead too? Where did the dream end and reality begin? "Well, at least he won't report this back to her now," Philip said shakily, wiping his sword on the grass again. The princess coughed, a little less blood this time. She really would have kept singing forever. Someday, when she was awake, this would be a hard-to-keep hold of dream memory. The only thing that would remain would be a feeling that she had sung with the angels, that she was one with the universe, and she would never do it again. She wished she could talk so she could tell Philip how she felt, how Maleficent ruined everything and hurt her in ways she never expected, but it was too painful in every sense of the word. "Let's get out of here," Philip suggested. "Hide until morning in case there are more of her spies around here. We'll go out to the far fields, keep warm in a haystack, maybe." She didn't argue, exhausted and dispirited and unable to speak. Out in the meadows, the last insects of summer were chirping comfortingly, and the ground smelled of dry grass and clean dirt. Princess drew out herself some, marveling at all the sensations, but she was still caught in her memories of being stuck in the castle where all the sterile and dead. Philip chose a pile of hay and dug into it, making a little hollow for them. After she clambered into and settled down, he got in next to her, then pulled out his sword and placed it between them. She gave it and him a curious look. They do it in fairy tales, he said, to keep from. It means that I can't. It's sort of symbolic. Oh, never mind. If anyone ever asks you about tonight, you can say there was a double-bladed sword between us and your chastity was safe. She raised her eyebrows at him wearily. It was a strange thing to be concerned about right then, considering none of this was even real. Just forget about it. Go to sleep, rest, whatever one does in a dream when one is tired, Philip said, taking off his cape and laying it over both of them. I know I'm exhausted. She curled up her back to him. It would have been warmer if the sword wasn't there. She wanted to be held by Philip or her aunts or her mother or father, even Maleficent, the way she imagined her to be. Tears began to fall silently from her eyes and soaked the hay under her head, faster and faster until she finally slept. And that's when she finally woke up. What? I forgot that was a long chapter.
Oh, yeah.
We are now more than halfway through the book.
There we go.
I want to read on, but I'm not going to.
No. It's finally got to that point, Steve, because the last few, most of this book, we got to the end of the chapter and we're just so confused. Yeah. But now we're to a point where we want to move forward more. So, yeah.
Yeah, now it's starting to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's starting to get there. So,
yeah. So I guess we'll be back. We'll be back next week for more book club. We'll take it from there. I'm glad to be doing this again.
Yeah, this feels right. I've been missing this book. Even like the first one was so good. The second one's been a little weary, but maybe we're starting to get somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't wait for the next one. Then I've heard the next one's Beauty and the Beast, if I remember correctly.
I think.
And then I think maybe Mother Gothel. But then when we get to Mulan, I've been told Mulan is really crazy.
Really?
So
interesting. Welcome in, dear David Bernfeld. Moon Princess, hello.
Next chapter.
Sorry.
Wait, the next chapter will be To Sleep, Perchance to Dream. So we're not reading that one.
Right.
So
that's where we'll pick up next week. These chapters don't have numbers, but that's the title of the next chapter. So good night, Kenneth.
Good night.
Have a good one. Thanks for hanging out. Yeah. So that's where we'll pick up next week. We'll go through and see.
Yeah, you'll read at least 2 chapters next week.
Cool.
And then there's a very small interlude, like 1 page. That'll be 18, and then you'll read 2 chapters next week. I'll read the 1-page interlude in 1 chapter, and that'll be roughly the same.
Cool.
So that's where we'll get to.
Stacey Rogers, welcome in. David Bacco, good to see you. Paul Engel, what's up? Howdy. Cool. So that's where we'll pick up next week and go from there. I'm going to open these cards.
Yeah, open them. It's only 10:15.
This is the Into the Inklands, the new series. I haven't got any of these.
Season 3 for keeping track.
The artwork looked pretty good on them.
Yep.
From the promotional images that I saw. So, I guess we should have asked Steve, did you have a good flight this morning?
Believe it or not, I flew American for the first time. I may have flown them like when I first started flying years ago. But I flew American for the first time. It was pleasant. So there's some different things. You have more leg room. It's
Yeah.
a little bit wider. That'd be fair. I was not on a full flight, but my row was full, but I still have plenty of room, no problems whatsoever. The boarding process was painless, took off very smooth, got a little bumpy up there. They still do a service up in the air, but they give you a glass of ice and an entire can of whatever you want.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you pour it yourself. Maybe it was because it was a small flight. I don't know. Gave you the little Biscoff cookies or whatever they are. And
Nice.
then they also, you get free Wi-Fi to connect to to certain entertainments, like Oppenheimer was on there, some other good stuff. But you also watch an ad and you get 23 minutes of Wi-Fi.
Oh,
So like for the first 20 minutes, I watched an ad. I thought I was going to be able to do it over and over again, so I wasn't paying attention. I did it, and they started going through their pregame, so I stopped, and then I went back to it. So I was just watching TikTok for 20 minutes, then it ended. Then I couldn't get it again. I had to pay $12 if you want in flight for a regular. So
that stinks.
yeah, it's all right.
But that's who I flew last time was American. So
Yeah, it was pretty good. I was impressed.
Yeah. So this is the artwork on these. This one is Kidda.
Ooh. Is that Raya?
No, that's from isn't that from it's the one that I've never seen with Michael J. Fox does one of the voices.
Is it Atlantis?
Atlantis, City of Atlantis, or whatever it is.
Yep.
Della Duck.
Yeah.
This is interesting. They didn't do this before. It's sideways.
Yeah, they've opened up.
Manor.
They've opened up places like locations.
Interesting.
Like that.
Okay. Pua.
Yeah, I like Pua.
The vault door.
Nice.
I have no idea what movie this is from. Mr. Snoops. Is it? No, I don't know. Starkey. Last ditch effort with Maui. Focus. Oh, I like Pluto. There we go. Pluto.
Oh, nice.
That's a cool one. The Quiet Castle.
The Queen's Castle.
Oh, Queen's Castle. Sorry. Mustafa.
Mufasa.
Mufasa. Mustafa. What did I say? Wow.
Are you okay?
Long night. Long day.
I didn't know if you were doing it on purpose or not. I was.
Mustafa? I don't know. I don't even know where that came from. And then the one that's in foil is Madame Medusa.
Oh, nice.
In the mirror, the window behind her is kind of foil. Yes. So, I don't know any of the. I don't know which of these is good or bad or anything. Like I said, first ones I've got. JNS says my friend is a retired American flight attendant after 34 years.
Nice. Wow. Oh, is Regina Erie's American?
I believe so. Yeah.
Never know.
That'd be funny if that was to happen. From Rescuers. Oh, okay. I didn't know who that was.
Oh, yeah, Madame Medusa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that one. I don't think I've seen the Rescuers.
Either one?
No.
Oh, wow. This is pack number 2.
This is pack number 2. There's one that's stuck in there. There we go. All right. Oh. Skippy from Robin Hood. I like that. That's a cute picture.
Yeah.
Another Pua. Another vault door.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't know this movie either. Helga Sinclair.
That's either see that looks like either Treasure Planet or Atlantis. I can't tell.
Maybe it's
It's
Atlantis.
It's been a while. I think it is Atlantis.
Yeah. Nutsy from
Yes, Robin
Peter
Hood.
Pan. I mean Robin Hood. Yeah. Oh, this is pretty. Heal what has been hurt, and it's Rapunzel.
Oh,
And
that's
her parents.
amazing.
That I like that. I wish it would focus a little bit. There it goes.
I love that card. Okay.
That's a nice one. Nala, I can pronounce that one right. Sumerian Talisman.
Yeah.
Scrooge's top hat.
That's cool.
Wow, this one's been full of Robin Hood. There's Little John.
Nice. I love the Robin Hood
There too.
stuff. So you know what? I think I might draw a whole set of those, paint them.
This is a cool one. This is Jafar in like battle armor.
Oh, nice.
Something.
All the snakes flying around him.
Yep. And then one from Robin Hood. No, Peter Pan. Sorry, Peter Pan. It's Cubby.
Nice.
That's the foil one.
Very nice. One more pack.
Helga is from Atlantis, the Lost Empire. Okay.
Nice.
I haven't seen that one either.
Good night, Jennifer. Hello, Samantha.
Good night, Jennifer. Have a good night. Helga is my sister-in-law. I'm not even making that up, says Winnie B. Hey, Sam. Welcome in.
Helga is a very German name.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This is Milo Thatch.
Okay, that is Atlantis.
That is Atlantis. Okay.
Yep, he's the main character.
Magic Broom.
Yep.
Giant magic broom. This is just says repair.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. It's Mickey Mouse.
Oh, nice. Detective?
Indiana Jones or something.
Oh, yeah, I see it.
Billy Bones.
Yes, that's Treasure Planet. Wait a minute. Go back. Is that Treasure Planet?
I'm trying to get it to focus.
I think that's Treasure Planet. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Joshua Sweet.
Nice.
Is that Tarzan?
No, that is
Is that Atlantis also?
Atlantis, I think, yeah. I always get Atlantis and Treasure Planet mixed up, which one goes with which, but I think it's Atlantis again.
Simba. Nice picture of Simba.
Uh-huh.
Oh, this is cool. It's the Jolly Roger.
Nice.
Oh, Matanui.
Yes.
Oh, another Helga in a different pose.
Ooh. Also known as Helga B.
Yeah. Here you go. And then Ariel being chased after by a shark.
Nice.
There you go.
Very cool.
And then the last one, the foil one, is Bell's house.
Nice. Those are good cards, man.
Those are pretty good. Yeah. I don't know that I'm going to go for the entire set of these. Did you see they've already announced the next series?
That's why I didn't get this series yet because they keep doing 2 packs. It should be once a year.
Yeah. that I was like, you just came out with these. Literally, they're just now in stores where you can buy them. And they're already coming out with the next series. So
we're going to keep doing it as long as people keep buying them.
I went to the comic book shop the other day and I bought some comic books and they had these. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to buy 3 packs. We'll see what they look like. So
at least the prices are back down to normal because they're overproducing now. So
yeah, they're available. And the full boxes are even available on Shop Disney or Disney, whatever that website is called now.
Mm-hmm.
So
Disney Store.
Disney Store. Yeah, that. So I think we'll call it a night. Should be back here Thursday night after Jeff and Corey to hang out a little while. We might be doing some Lego. I got some Lego, Steve, in today.
What'd you get?
Give me a second and I'll grab it.
Yeah, please do.
I should have brought it over here, but I forgot. I'll be right back.
All right. He's gone. Howdy-ho. How's everyone doing tonight? He didn't mute his microphone, though. We can hear him. Oh, he dropped something.
That's going to leave a mark.
I don't know. I did not get them before I left. What'd you do?
I had a plastic crate on the floor. I didn't see it and jammed my shin into it. So I purchased
Charlotte, Stacy.
I bought everything on Shop Disney last weekend.
Yep.
And I spent over $80. So I got the three little weird looking bunny for Easter. And I got the Easter box set, which is the bunny house and chick and
very nice.
So
that's cool.
We'll probably do those Thursday night before Easter. So the 2 big sets that I bought.
Yeah. Ooh.
I bought the
Star Destroyer.
Star Destroyer.
Not the big one.
Not the big one. No, this is the 630 piece one. And then I bought the other mini build.
Oh, nice.
The Falcon. So
very nice.
I've always wanted to build a Falcon, and they've always been way out of my price range.
Dude,
this one's 921 pieces, and I think it was $89. So
that's not bad. I built the big one.
Yeah,
the original build one. Oh man, it's just a lot of gray.
It's a lot of gray. It looks amazing though.
Hey Neil.
Hey Neil, welcome in. It looks amazing though. The thing I love about the giant one is it doesn't have like a bunch of studs on the top of it.
Yeah.
So it looks very much. It's very sleek.
I'll tell you, it and the Star Destroyer next to each other were ridiculous.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were so cool.
But I got those 2. There's another couple of the ships in this smaller series that they just came out with that I want to get. And I'd like to get the R2-D2 because I've never got an R2-D2.
The original one that came out a few years ago?
Yeah. Well, no, they've just come out with another one that's smaller. This one is like, what was it? It's like 13 or 14 inches tall.
Oh, wow.
And it's $99.
That's not bad at all.
No. So I want to get it. I think you can have him stand in either the 2-leg pose or the kicked out with the little tripod leg or whatever. But yeah.
I tell you,
can you please get the glue intro? Oh, we'll see, Stacy. Yeah.
What are we gluing?
Not gluing anything tonight, but I can play the intro.
I did find another use for glue, though.
Did you? Well, if we're going to talk about glue, we got to play the glue intro.
Might as well.
Here it is.
You all gallivant with your fancy foosball friends at school while I'm sitting here all day with nobody to keep me company except Steve?
So here's something interesting about my glue. Like, I have different bottles for the front and the back of my puzzles.
Except Steve.
It's true.
Yeah.
Although right now I have no glue bottles and I'm feeling withdrawals.
Yeah.
So I've recently got into another painting form, the painting form of pour painting. Not
I want to try that.
Said this on Monday, but not like POOR, but POUR.
Yeah.
So I've been studying a bunch of different techniques and creating cells and using additives and all that other stuff. And one of the ways that people make their mediums, they have different recipes.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff, I miss you.
But
The way people make their mediums, they mix different things together. You have Floetrol, you have Liquitex, you got gloss and varnish, and you got one of them is Glue-All from Elmer's.
Really?
Now, it's not a great. They don't recommend it highly because it can yellow over time, and you mix it with water. So water will allow things to grow in it. So they don't recommend you use this too often, especially with white, because it can yellow over time. But it can be used. It's a very cheap. If you're going to practice using Glue-All, it has to be Elmer's Glue-All, and you mix it with water and paint, and to get the color, and you can use that as a pouring medium.
That might be a good way to start out, just to get used to how it works.
Yep, and they say pour on everything that doesn't move. Pour on cardboard, pour on tile, pour on everything. So yeah. I have all the tools that I need now. I have all the paint. I have the Floetrol and things like that I wanted to do, and I got the last of it the day. I got it Monday yesterday, so I have all the stuff. So when I get home, I'm gonna this weekend. I think I'm gonna start working on my first one.
Yeah, I want to try that at some point. Too many what?
No, so you still use acrylic. It's acrylic painting. It's acrylic paint pouring. So, but what you do, you mix mediums, and I've been watching people do it too. They mix batches of it, like big buckets of it. That way, it's already pre-mixed. They just stir it up and go.
Yeah.
But you add the medium to acrylic paint to get your colors, and then that's what you pour.
I want to try that.
I'm going to do some of them. It's been something I've been watching on. I watch it on TikTok. I watch it on YouTube for about 4 months. Yeah. And I've been studying it and trying to figure it all out. So
Mara said Joy does a lot of it. And I've almost bought a couple of Joy's paintings. I love the colors that she uses a lot of times.
Joy S does pour painting?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yep. She's done quite a bit of it. And she does it pretty well. She Justin fusses because she gets glue all over the place. Yeah.
But Neil, I am in the Taj Mahal. Also known as Charlotte.
Okay, well, what do they recommend blending with that doesn't yellow?
Floetrol. So a lot of people will mix. Some people mix up to 4 things for their mediums, but Floetrol is a very good one. You can, when you're starting out, you can use water. Just water. Water is things grow in water. Bacteria and mold and stuff like that. So if you're going to do it, you need to do it and then cover it with a varnish to seal it all in, and it can still grow if you have bacteria inside it. But yeah, so it's just getting used to playing with it. Is use water, use glue, use whatever you can. But when it comes time to start really working it in, a lot of people will use a gloss medium, a gloss varnish medium mixed with Floetrol. You mix different parts, so it might be like 3 parts Floetrol, 1 part gloss medium. You put all that together, then you use 3 parts of your medium to 1 part paint. There's all kinds of recipes out there for depending on what you're doing. Because then on top of that, it's not just pouring stuff onto the thing. You got your center. Then you got to decide what you want your base. If you want it to be like white or black color, then you can ring pour, which means you pour circles, and then you pour another circle inside of that, and you pour another circle inside of that. Then you move the whole thing. I have silicone oil, which you can use to create what they call cells. It looks like webbing of different colors, and you can use rubbing alcohol to do the same thing. There's just so many things. They also have now swipe painting, which you do the same thing. You put like the stuff in and you swipe it across. Oh yeah, those are nice.
This is Joyce.
So those are awesome.
I really like some of her colors. I like that a lot. Anyway,
Mar, when did your daughter get stuck at Charlotte Airport? Because hopefully it's not today.
there is. I just dropped in the chat. Maybe that'll work.
You did what?
I dropped the link to Joey's Etsy shop.
Oh, gotcha.
So, yeah. Yeah, I want to try that at some point. It looks messy, but it looks like a lot of fun.
When I had a choice, I was going to do one of two different things. Was you're going to do pour painting, which I can do in my current situation. The other thing I want to do is chocolate art. Like I follow Amari Guichon a lot, and he creates some incredible stuff, and I want to do that, but I don't have the capacity to do that right now because then you do that and you also paint with cocoa butter, like they're doing the chocolate Easter eggs. And I want to be able to do that, create some pretty cool stuff, but I'm not set up to do that right now because that requires my kitchen and everything, and I just don't have the space.
So Neil says, I remove the paint from my walls when I'm playing, no chemicals. Jeff says, Alyssa said you were painting the walls with all that sauerkraut you ate, Neil.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's need to know information.
Oh, man. So, well, maybe we'll try that one night. Pour painting on stream. That could get fun and messy.
It's going to get real messy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
no more beer burn.
Be sure to check it since we were talking about Joy. Joy will be live tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. With the ladies. Short and sassy, sweet and short. I don't know. Whatever that stream is called that they do at 8 o'clock. Her and Tina and whoever else joins, Jeanette and the crew. Diz and Nat tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. With Steve and the fellas, Dave and Shep.
You know what made the trip up here with me?
What's that? Pants. Oh, the Kool-Aid pants.
Oh, Kool-Aid. And notice they're not on.
Never leave home without them. Yep, they'll be on tomorrow night, 9 o'clock. And then after this and that, Pete's going live with the Insomniac stream tomorrow night. So, and then we'll be back here. Jeff will be live Thursday.
Yes, Jeffrey.
And then Corey Thursday night, and we'll be here after they both end, hanging out, working on some Lego, having some friends on. May have a friend join that we've never had join before. So.
What?
Yeah. So hope y'all have a good. It's already Wednesday. Thank goodness. My first week back at work. I'm glad it's Wednesday.
Today's Tuesday.
Yes, but tomorrow's Wednesday.
Well, you can't just wish it to the. I was like, wait a minute, the week's already halfway over. I'm going home.
No, I'm halfway. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I've at least made it to Wednesday.
Not yet. You haven't. You still got an hour and a half to get there.
I've finished today and yesterday at work. I've made it to Wednesday.
You are pushing the envelope, sir.
I've made it to Wednesday, and I haven't taken a day off yet. So this is a big accomplishment.
There's Cy.
There's Cy. Look at
nice.
There you go. Epic day at the park. There you go. That's how you do it, Cy.
I was the first person Cy saw when she got here.
That's exciting.
And now I'm 4 states away.
Robert Dixon, hello. Welcome in. Dinah Murphy, hey, good to see you. So we'll see you back here, like I said, Thursday night after everybody winds down. Joy, maybe I don't know. We'll be here probably around 10 o'clock Thursday night and hang out a little while, have some friends on and see what's up. And I is saving the best for last.
I'll see you on our last day too, Jeffrey. Thanks.
There you go.
No, Cy.
Love you all. Cy, have a great time. Everybody have a good Wednesday. We've made it to the halfway point of the week.
No.
I don't care what he says.
No, it's only Tuesday.
Made it.
I still got the entirety of Wednesday to go before I feel when Wednesdays when you clock out tomorrow, then you could be like,
Hump
hey,
day. Hump day. Well,
Yeah,
have a good night, everybody. I love you all. We'll see you back here Thursday.